What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex, and today I'm going to be talking about the new Mission Impossible movie, the seventh in the entire series, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Ethan Hunt and his IMF team embark on their most dangerous mission yet, to track down a terrifying new weapon that threatens all of humanity before it falls into the wrong hands. With control of the future and the fate of the world at stake, and dark forces from Ethan's past closing in, a deadly race around the globe begins. Confronted by a mysterious, all-powerful enemy, Ethan is forced to consider that nothing can matter more than his mission, not even the lives of those he cares about most. I think people will come up to me and be like, well, why do you like Mission Impossible when it's the rival of the Bond series? Chill. We can all like two things here. It's not like we have to dislike the rival of something. I like Star Trek, but I love Star Wars more. It doesn't stop me from liking Star Trek. I love James Bond, but it doesn't stop me from liking Mission Impossible, at least most of the movies. The only one I really don't like is 2. That's the worst one by far. I hate Mission Impossible 2, but I find enjoyment out of all the other ones. In Fallout from 5 years ago was a really, really good action movie. That's one of the best action movies I've seen in a while. And Fallout was so tight and concise. It got right to the point. The action was great. Tom Cruise was great in it. It was the first Mission Impossible movie that I felt like had a great villain. So I was really looking forward to Dead Reckoning Part 1 and to see what it would have to offer over the span of these two movies, since it's a two-parter. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a solid action movie. It's a solid Mission Impossible movie. I shouldn't say it was a solid action movie, because if this was its own thing, if this didn't have the Mission Impossible branding on it, and it was just some random action movie, this would probably be a really good action movie. But even then, despite all the praise that this movie has gotten, it's got numerous amounts of flaws, and I'm going to get into those, and I know nobody's going to agree with me on them, but I need to address those, and I probably will do a spoiler review addressing those, because I need to talk more in depth about them, and I feel like being vague in this review about those things that I didn't like about this movie is just not enough. I have to really get it off my chest, because there are some things in this movie that just pissed me off, man. And we'll talk about them. But what works in Dead Reckoning Part 1? Well, everything you come to expect from a Mission Impossible movie. I mean, Christopher Mcquarie directs the hell out of this movie. I liked him bringing back the Dutch angles from the first Mission Impossible movie. It was actually kind of funny to see that I never thought that this series would come back to the Dutch angles, but it worked to make a lot of scenes stand out. It's noticeable, but it wasn't like the thing that was distracting or pulling the movie down. Tom Cruise is a sick, sick bastard, man, just doing all his own stunts, fucking jumping off of motorcycles, off of cliffs, and parachuting off of cliffs, and standing on top of a high-speed train while it's in full motion. Guy's crazy. The stunts continue to impress me with this series. The action set pieces, most of them I think are good. There's 2 in the first hour that I thought were really good. There's one to open the movie, well, sort of, maybe like 10 minutes into the movie, that I thought was really, really intense, and I was like, whoa, okay, so where's this movie going? Like, what are we doing here? They're like, this is interesting. There's a really tension-filled set piece set in an airport that I thought was really entertaining, and I thought that made for a really fun chase sequence. It had that first Mission Impossible movie vibe, you know what I mean? Like a chase scene from that, or like that tone. And I wish that the rest of the movie kind of had that. And then there's this really, really fun car chase towards the 45-minute to hour mark that I was really enjoying. I was really digging. It was over the top and campy, but in the ways that it should have been for a Mission Impossible movie. And that I sat there thinking to myself, you know what? This sequence right now is proving to me that this series is exactly what Fast and Furious should be. And Fast and Furious is not this. And I thought that first hour breezed by. Pacing was perfect, and if it wasn't perfect, it was nearly perfect for that first hour. But despite me singing all the praises of the technicalities of this movie from a technical standpoint, because that's where it all lies for me, I will say the plot, like, yeah, it's very timely. It's actually something that feels like it has stakes. They even say in the movie that this mission has the highest stakes for Ethan Hunt and his team. And I see why, because it's a very dangerous threat. It's something that feels like we are about to live in right now, with AI and artificial intelligence and it becoming self-aware and sentient, and what happens if that happens. The plot really addresses that, and I think all that is hammered home very well. It's just the script is a mess, man. There is so much meat that can be picked off of this bone and just tossed to the side. Everything with Shea Wiggum's character and his partner there, this felt so repetitive after a while. It just felt like we were just piling on scenes to pile on scenes to just pad the runtime. And I said, why are we even here right now? Why are these guys even in the movie? They don't have to be in the movie. Every time they showed up, I just rolled my eyes because I was just like, I don't care about these guys. Haley Atwell is really good in the movie. I think she gives a really good performance in the movie. I just didn't like her character. I didn't think her character was all that great. I thought her character was actually kind of bad. And it really felt like a rehash of how they had written Ilsa in Rogue Nation or even in parts of Fallout. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Ilsa at first either, but the more that I watched Fallout, because one of my complaints with Fallout when it came out was that I just felt like Ilsa didn't have to be there. But now, having seen Fallout about 6 or 7 times now, maybe eight, I realize she's an integral part of that movie. She has to be there. And I'm glad that she is part of the team at the end of that movie. And I was really looking forward to seeing what they were going to do with Elsa in this movie. But I don't know if it was scheduling conflicts for Rebecca Ferguson, but she's in the movie for only about 10 minutes, and I feel like they just nuked Ilsa in this movie, and they didn't really give her anything to do. It was a very disappointing aspect of the movie, and I just felt as if it was they just said, hey, well, we can't really get Rebecca Ferguson here, so let's just bring in Haley Atwell and just have her do stuff that we can't do with Rebecca Ferguson. I have to walk a tight line there because if I say what I was about to say, then I'm definitely giving away spoilers. And I think that that's probably, if I do a spoiler review, going to be the biggest talking point of this movie for me is the fact that I just did not like how they handled the female characters in this movie, particularly Ilsa Faust. Probably my favorite female character in all of the Mission Impossible movies, and this is how they handle her in this movie. It didn't sit well with me. The pacing in the second half, too, man, I was feeling that runtime after a while. I thought the first hour had a brisk pace. I was like, this does not feel like it's going to be 2 hours and 43 minutes, but this gargantuan 2 hour and 43-minute movie felt 2 hours and 43 minutes in the end. I felt it, man, especially in the final train sequence that didn't necessarily blow me away. And that was a bit disappointing. I get for many, it's exhilarating when you're watching it, seeing Tom Cruise standing on top of a moving train. But me, I just needed more out of that sequence. And I think by that point of the movie, I felt like I was just tired at that point because I felt like there were parts of this movie that were chugging along and chugging along because it's so padded with so many unnecessary characters and an overabundance of characters that the movie just started to feel like it was becoming too big too quick. That second half, man, I pinpointed it too. There's a scene at this gala in the second half, and for me, that is where the movie really starts to fizzle. I don't want to say it tanks, but it fizzles, and it fizzles hard. And going back to Ilsa for a minute, just the way that they handled that pissed me off, man. I cannot believe they did that. Dead Reckoning Part 1 has a really good first hour. The holes in the script aren't as present there. I felt like that the tone was being set. I understood where the story was going. I really liked what I had seen. The action to that point was really fun. I was enjoying the stunts. The stunts all throughout the whole entire thing were great. The directing's great. The acting is great. All the visual effects too, the reliance on practical effects over CGI. Big props to this movie, especially considering that they had to build an actual train for the finale of this movie. They couldn't just use a working train in service. They had to build an actual train. Kudos to them for pulling that off. But once we get to that gala scene in the second half, and you know what I'm talking about, the holes in the script really started to show. And the movie started to feel repetitive. The pacing felt off to me, where it felt like the runtime was bloated. You could easily have trimmed off a half hour of this movie, and I just wish that it had handled its female characters so much better than it did, particularly Ilsa. And I can tell you right now, here's how I would fix Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 to shave off a half hour of this movie, because this easily could have been a 2 hour and 10-minute movie. It did not have to be 2 hours and 43 minutes. First of all, I would get rid of Shea Wiggum's character and his partner there. Wouldn't do any of that. I would get rid of Haley Atwell's character. Wouldn't do any of that. I'd just have it just be the team. I wouldn't have all this repetitive exposition stuff. There is a big exposition dump in the first 20 minutes of the movie. I swear to God, the scene went on for about like 2 minutes too long. I said, I can't even keep up with what's being said right now. I get what the thing does. Luckily, it's because you repeat yourself later on in the movie with what it does. So you're lucky I was paying attention enough to understand what it was doing. So I wouldn't be as repetitive, and I would definitely cut out a lot of the supporting characters in this movie. This was a bit of a disappointment. The Mission Impossible movies have really gotten a lot of credit for being some of the best action movies and for being Bond's biggest rival, and I respect that. I really like a lot of the Mission Impossible movies, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I'm not really going to remember this one all that much. And I hate to say that, out of all 7 of them, right now, I put this at 6. Dead Reckoning Part 2 really has to blow me out of the water to improve this movie and put it higher up in my ranking. I'm going to say I enjoyed Dead Reckoning with just over half a bucket of popcorn. And it's because of all those holes in the script and the overabundance of characters. If you just take it a half hour out of this movie, it can be so much better than it was. So if you have seen Dead Reckoning Part 1, let me know what you think about it. Drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.